I want to be someone who brings value to the world, even if it's just my little tiny world. But that is what motivates me. I love making people's lives better. And at the end of the day, I don't feel satisfied unless I've helped people.
Every week here on More Than Profit, we explore the stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and investors who have made a difference in the world while building successful businesses.
We sit down with each guest and dive into their personal journey, their struggles and triumphs, and the lessons they've learned along the way.
On this episode, we are sitting down with the co-founder and CEO of Global Disposal Reduction Services. Josh Allen started it in 2008, which has grown into a national leader in the waste consulting and management services. He later went on to start PIN Services in 2012, which has quickly grown to be the largest residential waste brokerage in the country by focusing on improving waste and recycling programs in residential communities. And then, in 2015, he acquired the Universal Waste Disposal Company and is now building it into the market leader for responsible lamp, battery, and electronics recycling nationwide. Josh is one of those rare leaders that could truly be in any industry and make it exciting. More than anything, his deepest passion is people. He makes it his goal to serve others and choose joy every day.
Have you ever worked any dirty jobs?
I did. I actually worked many dirty jobs, but the worst dirty job I ever did was I was in college and I worked for a electrical company. I was in this place where they had radiation, Fermilab is what it was. So they would hook a wire to the back of my pants and I would crawl into holes and run wire. Like I would do that.
Serious?
And, oh, totally. I would come out and you had a little Geiger counter on your body at all times. At the end of the day, the manager would come in and Geiger counter you. And I just remember one time they sent me home for a week.
No.
Yeah. And now I have 4 kids, so I don't know, it didn't affect anything. But I was in college. So this, I don't know what year it was, but they paid me $13.50 an hour.
Wow.
Which was so much money back then.
That's a lot.
Oh, it was so much money. But it was dirty, but not like today's episode is going to be much dirtier than that.
Filthy.
Filthy.
I haven't really had crazy dirty jobs. I mean, in high school, I worked at a grocery store. I was in the Army, and that was, dirty, but not like nasty dirty.
So here's this. How long were you on a tank sometimes in the Army?
Well, I guess that is dirty.
How long?
At least easy a month.
Yeah, a month on a tank with a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Is there a toilet on a tank? How does that work?
No, you just go in the woods. Yeah.
What if you can't get out of the tank?
Baggies.
So this guy's like, I've never worked a dirty job.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
Have you pooped in a bag? That's a dirty job.
Yeah.
Sleeping on a tank. Doing everything on a tank. Yeah. I guess that's a dirty job. I just don't think of it like that.
So, Bryce, who are we with today?
Yeah, Josh Allen. He owns a company called Global Disposal. What was your dirtiest job? I mean, you've seen a lot of things. So, like, with Global Disposal, like, what's one of the craziest things you've seen?
And you've seen bad.
Yeah. So we don't touch the trash as much as you would think because we manage it, right? But I have gone and done some pretty disgusting jobs. Like I've had to go move some stuff, like haulers have missed. In fact, this Christmas, on Christmas Eve, one of the haulers was on a strike for 30 days. And me and my son were picking up trash at a homeowners association and putting it in the back of truck and scooping it up on Christmas Eve this year. And it was something I thought I would never do.
And you're not a guy who likes poopy things like that.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm a germ freak and I just, yeah.
So how did you end up in trash?
I had a friend who had taken a class on how to broker trash and he told me about it. And at the time I was selling to property managers who were managing homeowners associations. And I started asking them, hey, tell me about trash in homeowners associations. And every single one was like, oh, we hate it. The haulers, it's bad. We need help. And so I said, okay. And the way it worked back then is it was like a shared savings model is what he had learned about. So you would go, okay, you guys are spending $5,000 a month. If we can save you money, we get part of it. And that's how we started. And it started working like we would.
And how long ago was that? How long ago did you start?
2008.
So this is the thing I love with Josh, and we'll get to his little bit of his history and who he is. But he's a straight up hustler. Because how old were you when you started it?
I was 27 or 28.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Saw a need, filled it.
Yeah. Didn't know anything about trash. Zero.
No. And you still don't know that much about trash, right?
No, that's my claim to fame is the first year they came out with top 40 under 40. in America for trash.
Oh, stop
I was one of the winners. I know.
There you go.
I know. Yeah. That's what I tell when people ask them, like, it's really boring. I know everything about trash. But it's boring. That's not a sexy thing to.
No, but it's a needed thing.
But yeah, I mean, trash is everywhere. I mean, quite literally. So
because prepping for this a little bit, like I was thinking, our kids are all gone. It's just Laura and I. I throw out a trash bag every other day, just full of stuff. And I'm always like amazed going, it's just the two of us. And, you know, and I just think back when we had a family and I'm like that we were throwing out once, sometimes twice a day. We have haulers doing all that stuff. And it's filthy. And like, we'll talk about it. So give some background. So Josh Allen you were born here in San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego. And I lived in Imperial Beach, which is like, if you drive west in America and south in America, that's where you end up, Imperial Beach. You could spit across the Tijuana River into Mexico. It's pretty,
Well, we wouldn't do that though, but you could.
You could.
But you
probably couldn't spit, but you could throw a baseball to the other side if you wanted to play catch. Yeah.
Born and raised there.
Yeah.
And then you stayed in San Diego. But you played football in college.
I was not very good. My senior year, I grew and I played a lot in high school my senior year. And then I took a year off and I went and played in junior college. And then I started getting offered scholarships at a junior college. And I went to a little tiny school in Springfield, Missouri and played for a couple years. I was a receiver. So I just wanted to go someplace they threw the ball. I didn't want to block for 2 years.
Because you could catch a ball.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm not that fast, but I'm tall.
So did you come from entrepreneurial family?
Everyone in my family was in construction.
Okay.
So I grew up on construction sites. I would go, my dad he would like put me in a ditch and be like, I want you to dig a ditch. You know, I would dig a ditch for a week during like a spring break. One time you put me under a house to water seal it with this chemical. This is back in like the probably early 90s. And I came out after like 15 minutes. I'm like, hey, I do not feel good. I think this chemical, he started complaining. He was like, you're being a baby. So he gets back under there with me. And after about 15 minutes, he looks over and I'm on all fours drooling. And he goes, hey, I think we need to get out of here. I'm like, yeah, we need to get out of here.
Oh my god.
And he's like, you don't have to do this anymore. I'm like, thanks.
Thanks, Dad.
Wow. See, that's why it's good to have children because you can make them. So you played football and were you pretty good at football, would you say?
I was serviceable. I started in junior college.
Played in college.
Yeah. It was like a little tiny NAIA school. I was not the best player on my team ever, but I did play and I was okay. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you were growing up though, like what kind of motivated you? Who inspired you? Were there things that you can kind of point to and kind of helped guide you in that direction?
I love sports. Like I grew up, if you would have asked me when I was a kid, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go play professional baseball. I'm going to go play college football. Like I always knew I wanted to do that. But then I was really small. So my freshman year, I was 5'2", 96 pounds. In fact, my 13-year-old daughter right now is taller and weighs more than I did my freshman year. And so sports was really disappointing for me in high school. I didn't even play. I mean, I was on the teams, but I would just practice with the team and get picked on. And then between my junior and senior year, I went through puberty, which is a real benefit if you're a guy. Yeah. And I grew. And so my senior year, I just didn't come off the field. I was pumped. It was like everything I had.
How much did you grow in that time?
I probably was 6 foot tall. So I grew maybe like 5 inches over. It was like 6 months or 7 months and I gained like 35 pounds. So I think I started the season at 160, which I wished. I mean, right now I weigh 205 because I've lost 20 pounds. So yeah. So, but in college I played like closer to like 190, 185. So I kept growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so, you're in business. Were there teachers? Were there parents? Like when you think back on your life, what inspired you? Like other than sports as an activity, but like what was kind of gave you the drive to kind of do what you do now, Global Disposal?
Because what's interesting with you is just even that, like, so you didn't know anything about trash. You have a friend who learned something. You learn from that. And then you actually launch a whole business that's been highly successful. And it's like, what got you to those places where you're like, why?
I always knew I wanted to own my own business. And so right out of school, I started working for people and I did sales in college at 24 Hour Fitness. Like in between football season. And then I did sales right when I got out of school for a company that was selling software. And I didn't sell anything, by the way. But I did learn a lot about sales. My uncle worked for the company and he kind of invested some time in me and gave me Zig Ziglar tapes. And, no one in my family ever had a job. So they all worked for themselves. They all had little construction companies with just a couple employees and they would do their own little side projects. So in my mind, I was never going to go get a job, but they always encouraged me to go get a job. So I remember arguing with my dad and my grandpa I worked in construction a little bit when I graduated, and I was like, this really isn't for me. Their version of construction was like putting on bags and digging ditches every day and actually doing the work. And I was like, I think this is like, I have a different version of this, which they just didn't agree with. And I was not going to change their mind. And so I worked for my high school football coach doing sales for his pest control company, which was kind of another dirty job doing sales for that. I didn't enjoy it. I did learn a lot and I got really good at it, but I was selling to property managers. And so I was just doing corporate property manager sales all the time. And I kind of learned how that industry works. And that industry is kind of a niche industry. If you understand it, then you can, kind of move around in it and work with homeowners associations. And so that gave me an opportunity to do it with trash. And then I kind of like trash. Like I bought a couple different companies and started a couple different companies around trash. We recycle light bulbs and batteries and electronics, and we manage all different types of waste for different companies. And I kind of geek out on trash a little bit now, which is.
So tell us, what is Global Disposal? Like, you have your hands on a lot of different.
Yeah. We manage waste for businesses and communities. A lot of times we're going, okay, what's your budget and what problems do you have? And then we help them solve it. Along the way, we've built a SaaS product for homeowners associations specifically to manage their waste. And we're the only company in the country that does it. And so if I look towards the future of Global Disposal, right now it's probably about 25% of our revenue, but I think it'll be like 90% of our revenue in 5 years. It's a pretty good product and it works for a lot of different markets. And so we're really focused on that, and which is really interesting. I didn't know anything about building software or that market or industry, but I kind of got lucky and hired the right people and have some really smart people that work for us, and they're really creative, and that helped us a lot.
One thing that I really like about you is you have become interested in trash because you're just curious.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I think you've got, when you find yourself, you're just problem solving. Like you're working with communities, you're helping. What are your problems? How can we help solve it? And obviously it's related to trash because that's what you do.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about you is you could be in any business.
Any business. Yeah.
And one, you'd be interested in it. You'd find yourself. But really, you could be in any business because you're really about people.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was really interesting too, because we were talking this morning kind of on the way over here. And one of the things you shared was you want your people here to not just survive in San Diego, but thrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
In San Diego.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, you need to be a highly profitable business.
Yeah.
So the driver is not like profit. The driver is, I want the people that work with me to thrive.
Yeah.
So can you explain that a little bit? Like in your mind, like what does that mean to you and how does that manifest itself here?
I wake up every day and what motivates me is improving the lives of the people that I work with. And then obviously my customers' lives. I want to be someone who brings value to the world, even if it's just my little tiny world. I don't have that many people that work with us. It's about 30 right now, which seems like a lot, if you compare it to 10 years ago when it was like 3, but that is what motivates me. I love making people's lives better. And at the end of the day, I don't feel satisfied unless I've helped people. There was a while where I was struggling with my identity and what was making me happy. And I realized, man, on days where I get up and I just focus on other people, at the end of the day, I go to bed excited and happy and fulfilled. I remember for a while, I just had a time period where I was going through a rough time. And so I would just get up and I'm like, I'm just going to help as many people as possible today. I mean, whether it was opening the door for someone or just being polite or saying something nice to people, it didn't even have to be directly related to my work environment. It just was my environment in general. I would call my mom and dad and tell them, hey, I love you. Thank you. Call my wife and send her a nice text, reach out to my friends and make sure I'd said something nice to them that day. And at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I'm fulfilled today. And so I have tried to kind of mold my life around that model where I'm just helping as many people as possible every single day.
So you say that, was that a certain age that this happened?
Yeah, I would say it was in my 30s. And we've talked about this outside of the podcast a little bit, but I had some health issues where I had a stroke one day. I would have considered myself like the healthiest person. I mean, I didn't eat incredibly healthy, which I'm learning, but I was healthy. You looked at me, I played flag football and I looked fit and I used to go run and go to the gym. And for the most part, I was healthy, And then I had a stroke and I found out I was just born with this heart defect and it impacted my life. And so I was struggling. I ended up having to have open heart surgery and that fixed the problem for a while. And, I've continued to deal with it and just have some issues. But it was kind of in that period where I was spending a lot of time by myself driving. San Diego is like a big county. So I was driving for work a lot and I was struggling. I don't want to say I was depressed, but I was probably struggling a little bit with depression, just going, gosh, like what is going on and how do I make this work?
And it's okay to say you were depressed. You probably were depressed.
Yeah, I probably was. Yeah.
Well, was Global Disposal different, would you say, before in the way that you approached kind of this idea of being about helping people thrive? And you had a moment of like realization, hey, this is actually what brings me joy. And you started implementing these things, or was this always part of who you are?
Well, the only thing I have to say is I was at his 40th birthday party and there were people from his grade school, his junior high, his high school, his college, and then after, everything from that got up on the mic and said just amazing things. But it was funny the theme was you helped a lot of people even when you were younger. So I do think you had
So it sounds like it was part of who you are, maybe became more focused.
Or maybe you were faking all that up until you were 30.
No, I will tell you. So my parents made a decision a long time ago that really impacted my life and my brother's as well. When I was 4, my mom's grandma's brother came to visit. So can you even name your mom's grandma's brother?
No.
Yeah, exactly. He came to visit from Idaho. He was 72. He brought his 35-year-old autistic son. My parents were 25. And they had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. They had their own construction company. And he came to visit and he said, hey, I'm not going to live that long. Obviously, I'm 72. And he was kind of having some health issues. He goes, when I pass away, can you watch Ashley? You guys are my closest family, which was, it's like a second cousin once removed or something, And my parents agreed to it. And he bought the house across the street and he was going to just move in the house and then kind of finish out his life. And that's how it was going to work. He bought the house across the street. He left Ashley with my parents and he drove back to Idaho to sell his house in Bend, Oregon. That's what it was. On the way, he had a heart attack, got in a car accident and died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my parents were 25. They had this 35-year-old autistic man.
Wow.
You guys, if you go to my parents' house today, he still lives there. That was like just incredibly impactful on my life. There's so many days in your life when you're a kid where you're just like, you think you have it rough. You had a bad day and you had this guy who and Ash is like, his name's Ashley. He's not high functioning. There's parts he's smart at certain things. But he grew up, he's kind of like a brother. We would argue and he would write down what we did wrong and give it to my parents. But it was really hard to just treat people poorly. And I think it made me treat people well and just treat people with a different level of respect. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. That was
really good.
Yeah, really good.
In October of 2015, Jonathan Kumar stood on a street corner in downtown Seattle. He watched a man beg for 20 minutes as not a single car opened a window for him. The man, Edward, stood there painfully seeking diabetes medication for his feet after recently ending up on the street. As person after person passed the man by, Jonathan eventually approached him and had a conversation with him. It was then that Jonathan realized this man was experiencing not just financial poverty, but a profound sense of relational poverty. Many urban city-goers continually confront homelessness, but are caught without time, cash, or understanding on whether cash will even help them at all. These and other barriers lead to the easiest response: do nothing. And so individuals without a home are told hundreds of times an hour that they don't exist. So Jonathan built Samaritan, a support platform that empowers people without a home to move forward. Individuals gain the financial, social support needed to rebuild hope and reach housing goals. Become a Samaritan today. Be a part of encouraging your unhoused neighbors and funding strategic needs to help them reach life-changing outcomes. To learn more and become a Samaritan, visit samaritan.city and also check out episode 46 of this podcast to hear an interview with Jonathan about his journey and the amazing work they are doing at Samaritan. Now back to the episode.
Well, for Global Disposal, even now, I was excited to kind of talk to you on the podcast because I think a lot of people have a general ethos of like, hey, I'm about people. I want to help people.
Yeah.
But what they say and what they do are completely different, or they lack imagination in ways to help people thrive. Because I like that kind of even thinking. Can you give us like, what are very practical things that you've done to help your team members in ways that, I mean, pay's one thing. Can you just give us several? And then what I also, when you talk, what's going to be interesting is you're going to get super excited about it.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
It is.
And you get excited about helping and loving on your people. So what are some of the things that you do and are thinking about doing, or even ways down the road where like, I haven't done this yet, but I'm actually interested in doing this in the future?
COVID actually helped clarify this a little bit. Everyone's version of happiness and thriving looks different. And so I think a lot of times as companies, you think that it just has to be like this. Like a lot, obviously in big companies, people get turned into a number and you show up, you work this many hours, you produce this product, and this is what you get paid. And there's so much more to that. And there's so much more to people's life. And the advantage you have when you have a small company, you have a huge advantage over these big companies. I know about these people. A lot of times I know their parents. That's how I met Brian McKay, is through his daughter, Bryn McKay.
She's been working here for 5 years.
Yeah. You get to build relationships with their parents, their brothers and sisters, sometimes their spouses, their children. Jeff just came in this morning and he brought his daughter in. They're flying somewhere. And, she gave me a hug and high-fived me. And it is awesome to be part of people's life. Life is so seasonal. I'm going through a season right now and it looks a certain way and this is a good season. But I've had some rough seasons, and I'm sure you guys have had rough seasons too. And everyone who works here goes through seasons where they're having health issues, or their dad passed away, or their kids are sick, or their wife lost their job or something, and they need different things at different times. And I want to always be open to serving that person in their season. We were just talking about, I've lost people most of the time around having children. Like I've kind of identified that, like when a family has a kid, I'm likely to lose that person in some capacity. You know what I mean? And what I've learned with the girls, because I have a daughter, and it's really made me think about, I want my daughter Peyton to have an awesome life, and I want her to go work for a company that cares about her. And I want her to be able to go in and out of her career.
That's good.
At the level she needs at that time, whether she has one kid or two kids. And so I've had girls come back and work part-time, and they are some of the best people we have because they understand our culture. They are hustlers. They get stuff done. They don't waste time. They love being in the office or working out of the office. I don't care what it is. And what's awesome is I get to make their life better, giving them a flexible job. We respect them. We respect their time and everything they give to us. Those are the type of things I think you can do as an employer that is just thinking outside of the box and really asking, what does this person need at this moment? Yeah,
I mean, time's precious, but it's also super flexible.
Right.
And it doesn't cost anything. I mean, it does. Time is money in a sense, but it doesn't. To be flexible with your people and the time they work, somebody's a morning person, somebody's a night person.
Right.
Somebody could work 3 days a week. Somebody can work 4.
Right.
That flexibility is so important. They have kids and they need to be at practice in the afternoon, whatever that thing may be.
And the smaller you are, the more conversations you get to have about that stuff. And so you have insight into their lives. As we get bigger, I think I told Bryce this morning, I sent out a survey last week and I asked everything like, what's your shoe size? What's your shirt size? What's your dream vacation? What's your favorite weekend vacation? Because if I'm going to spend $1,000 on an employee and they want to go to Palm Desert for the weekend, that's the thing them and their spouse or them and their friends do. I want to pay for that. You know what I mean? Because that's what good. People are saving for. That's what people are budgeting to get to that vacation. If I look around and we have one guy here who loves shoes, and if I get him something, it's a pair of shoes, and I know what shoes he likes. I know what size he is. And he's always so pumped,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to spend money on things that they want, but maybe they wouldn't spend money on themselves or couldn't.
And what are some of the day in and day out things you do? Like we're in your office right now and we stumbled into tea time or coffee time.
10, 15 coffee time.
So exactly. So what are some of these things you do on a regular basis that just to you are just normal? You don't even think about them, but aren't normal in some places.
So you have a wheel that has restaurants because you bring lunch in how many days a week?
We bring lunch in at least once a week, and then we try to go out or bring it in twice a week. So Thursday is we bring it in. We call it the Wheel of Death because no one ever wants to put anything healthy on there. And we've all gained so much weight since we brought out the Wheel of Death. And then Fridays, we either walk across the street to Liberty Station and eat, or we bring in lunch. And then usually we pay for lunch one other day a week, which is something that right now food is so expensive. Yeah. And people really appreciate, they love it. I mean, every time people say thank you, it's crazy. Yeah. We do it every week, and usually 2 or 3 times a week. Every single time people say thank you and they appreciate it.
What's something you're like, I'd love to do this for I haven't done it yet, but this is something that I think would be super fun for the people that work with me.
Am I really dreaming like my big ones? Or?
I'm just curious.
Wow. If we ever get to where we can really make a ton of money, I would love to be able to either buy people a house or be the bank to loan people money for their house.
Wow.
San Diego is expensive. It would be awesome if we had a bank.
You get a car, you get a house.
That would be fantastic. I mean, so
can I come work for you?
Yeah, anytime.
With Global Disposal, like where do you see it going? Like where do you see the garbage industry? I mean, because everything changes. Everything you have to keep evolving as a company. And
yeah. So the thing we're most excited about, and I'll focus on that because there's so many little things going on in the trash world. There's a lot of things going on. Every market's different. Our PIN services platform, PIN stands for power in numbers. What we've realized, it's kind of like Groupon meets Nextdoor, where the way homeowners associations work is they pay HOA dues, and whatever the HOA dues cover gets paid for, and they can broker those services. They can group those services. So if trash is included in their HOA dues, we realized really quickly, like those HOAs are getting really good deals on trash because they can go to the haulers and shop it around. But if it was left outside of the HOA dues, which a lot of times developers do because they want to keep the HOA dues as low as possible, then those associations are all paying for trash separately and they didn't have the same negotiating power. So we developed a platform that allows them to pay the platform and then control who they use as a hauler. And then obviously we can help them broker that deal and make a little bit of revenue on every transaction, right? But what we also realized is, we did with trash, is we can do it for other services. So there's a lot of other services, like we do the trash can cleaning, we do junk removal. We've had an association just negotiate dryer vent cleaning for the entire association. So not everyone has to sign up, but what happens is you go on the platform, you log in and you see everything that's available for your community. And so you can negotiate a deal with a vendor. The vendor knows they're going to get one check for that product or that service. And out of 200 homes, maybe 50 sign up, maybe 150 sign up, depending on what the offer is and how good a deal it is. With trash, typically everyone's signing up. So that's a really good one. And then you can offer them other deals. So I think if you looked towards the future of Global Disposal, we're moving towards this PIN platform, PIN services platform. And we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money building it. And it's really good. You can download it on the App Store. And
so it's yours.
It's ours. Yeah. Yeah. We built it, and that we've been doing that we started about 7 years ago, designing this new platform. I started doing it just basically by hand. In fact, Taylor, the girl you saw with the baby, that was her job, to bill every single person individually. But then we were billing like 5,000 people a month and just got crazy. I'm like, okay, we have to build something to do this. And so usually I like to test something and see if it works before we spend a bunch of money trying to improve it.
Where is the trash industry going? Like it seems to me, that it hasn't changed much. Is there innovation on the horizon, and what is needed still to innovate around trash, like to reduce costs to the consumers? I mean, because everybody has to pay for it, right? And it's going somewhere. Where is the industry going?
It's hard. It changes from market to market. So the way trash works in Louisville is going to be different than Phoenix, and then obviously different than San Diego. The problem is this: we've a little bit been sold a bill of goods. Recycling isn't as efficient as they like to say it is. And so the markets for plastics, it doesn't really make a ton of financial sense. When you say, okay, we're sending a truck out for trash and a driver, when you look at costs for trash, it's labor, fuel, and dump fees, right? Well, when you're sending a truck out to pick up just trash, your cost is one truck, one driver, and that dump fee. but now you have to send 2 trucks out when there's recycling. And then in California right now, it's organics too, food waste. So you're sending a truck out to pick up food waste as well. Well, the amount of energy you're spending and money you're spending to go pick up that food waste, it's supposed to be like waste to energy. It's at like 9 times negative. It doesn't make financial sense. And so the problem we're struggling with is people care about the environment. There's a big movement to protect the environment, but this is not a popular opinion. But what ends up happening is the haulers have a lot of push and just they carry a lot of weight in this industry. And what they typically push for is more revenue. I mean, the big publicly traded haulers, they care about revenue because that's what pushes the stock market. They care about their stock price. And so what we've seen is the market trending that direction. It gets really, really complicated when you ask, where is the waste industry going? I'll tell you, the prices are going to get more expensive. You know, when you think about labor and fuel, those are going up. And then dump fees aren't getting any cheaper. And there's just a bunch of environmental restrictions. And so I think you're going to see more cities recycling. You're going to see more cities going to organic waste too. So I just think we're going to see prices rise. And so that's why the PIN platform, like our stuff, is popular with the big communities because they can do everything. They can control as much as they can possibly control and kind of use their numbers to generate the lowest prices possible. But there's a lot of unions, there's a lot of publicly traded companies, and it's just going to be really difficult to move the needle. I wish I had a great answer for you. Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, the fact that it sucks is kind of why we're in business, is because we're thinking outside the box and trying to do the little things. It's a very lucrative industry when you go to the big conferences and you see there's just miles and miles of trucks outside and new equipment. Everyone's making money in the trash industry. And so it's really hard to change it because there's so many people making money. It's hard to move this needle. And I don't want to say too many negative things and get people, but there's a couple really good podcasts you can listen to that just almost debunk the whole recycling myth. And I just hate to go down that path, but it is a old, big machine that is just not improving very fast.
Well, I was with my daughter yesterday in like a Prada store and these other stores. And what was interesting is they were talking about recycling. So it was this nylon bag that was very expensive. It's lost fishing nets and bottles and things like that. And when I asked her, how much you think of it is like recycled? And she goes, oh, it's like less than a thimbleful or something. I mean, something like that. And I was like, okay, but it sounds great to say I got a Prada purse that,
yeah,
you know, it was completely done with recycling, but it's not. But again, I mean, I'm sure companies do all different levels, but I did think it was interesting where I go, I don't know, it's the billing of it that was amazing.
Yeah.
You go, oh, okay. And again, I don't know if she really knew what she was talking about, but it is crazy.
Well, the oil industry really pushed plastics recycling market because obviously plastics are made from oil. And so they made a huge push to ingrain in us that plastics are recyclable and it is worth it. The reality is plastics are one of the big problems. What should probably happen is we should move to a market where packaging especially is only made from certain types of products, and those products are really recyclable. You can close the loop on those types of packaging. That would help a ton. You know, every day you guys are showing up to your house, how many cardboard boxes are there?
Yeah.
And then what's inside the cardboard box? Who knows what?
More paper.
Yeah, exactly. Or
more plastic.
More plastic.
But an example of that would be aluminum, because aluminum is something.
Yeah, well, aluminum, like in metal, can be recycled over and over and over again. I mean, cardboard can be recycled about 7 times before it loses its ability to be recycled. And there's some improvements on that. And then plastics, you know, like a Starbucks cup, is it recyclable? Yeah, it is. You could technically recycle it. It doesn't get recycled. That type of plastic is just, it's kind of crap plastic. And so there are certain types of plastic that are more recyclable than others.
But they're more expensive.
And they still, like, it doesn't make as much sense. And that's the hard part. It's just re-educating people and changing a whole industry. And like, who wants to pay more so they have recyclable packaging? No one wants to pay more right now.
I would, because I'm about the environment.
Yeah, so am I.
So at Global Disposal, the thing we started off talking about with the podcast was I want people to thrive in San Diego.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you know, I've got to build a highly profitable business.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to kind of come back to as we're closing is a little bit about, you are a profitable company, right? You still provide all these amazing services.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's a cost to the company, but you've also, I'm sure, seen great retention rates.
Oh, yeah.
and great output. I think what I'm trying to also articulate is a lot of times I think people think if I do that, then I'm going to make my company less profitable. How do you think like your focus on people and helping them be more thriving in your company, how do you feel like that's impacted your bottom line?
And even using the example of your employee who was just in here with a little 2-month-old baby that was a cutie little girl, because you referenced how she had helped you billing 5,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, so someone like that would be a great example of going how you manage people.
So think of your guys' company, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's someone you can think of. You're like, man, if we had 1 million of them, if we had 10 of them, this company would just be crushing it.
So weird that I think of myself, but anyways, okay.
Yeah. For me, it's not me. You know, like I for sure, I'm thinking of other people going, man, if we had 10 of them, this place would be amazing. And so my thought back to Bryce's question, your question, I think this answers it is, if I invest in the good people, they're going to stay longer. They're going to care. They're going to take ownership. I tell everyone, I go, hey, your job is to make the customer's life just so good that they love our company and want to stay with us forever. My job is to make your life so good that you want to work with us and stay with us forever. That, I think, is the correlation. Like, I need to support them. Do they have all the tools they need to make the customer's life better? Am I treating them fairly? You know, I haven't fired very many people, which is, I think, a problem for me. Like,
it's good and bad.
Yeah, it is. It's good and bad always.
Well, it just shows you're willing to kind of work through hard circumstances because you believe the best in people. But it also, I do think sometimes when you do have to let somebody go, more often than not, they know it and they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And you're really like, we just need to repot you. You're a person of dignity and worth and value. And it's just not working here. Let's figure out where it would work.
Correct.
So me transitioning you doesn't mean I don't like you. Doesn't mean it's just, let's get you to a place where you can thrive.
I made a mistake very early in my ownership career, as a boss. The first person I fired, once I fired them, I realized I was asking them to do too much. And I felt horrible. And I still reach out to her at Christmas time. I send her money, and I fired her, I think, 10 years ago. I do. I feel horrible. And look, part of it was her fault. So I'm not going to take all the blame, but looking back on it right away, I was like, I didn't do everything I could have and should have done. And I never want that to happen again. So I make sure if I fire someone now that I have done everything I possibly can to make this person successful. And I'm not asking too much of them, because sometimes they don't have the skill set to actually do the job I'm asking them to do. And you can ask someone to move and say, hey, look, I know this is your job, but I think you would be better fit. Like you said, repot them over here and give them an opportunity to thrive somewhere. Because if you asked me to do accounting, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there and do it. But that's me. And the people we have that do it they literally love it. They're like, you just don't bother me. Shut my door. Can you put the blinds down? You know what I mean? They just want to sit in that room all day and crunch numbers. And I love it for them. And so that's what I have to be careful of, is I just want to leave every situation and know that I did everything I possibly could to make that person successful here.
So Josh, I have to say, I've watched you as a human for, I don't know how many years now, but I just go, you're amazing. Your company's amazing. I love that you're a learner and you're a continuing learner. I'm just saying, like, watching your employees, they love you. And again, do they take advantage of you? I feel like sometimes they do. But I also think it's that thing going, you genuinely are just someone who wants to see people thrive. I've watched it firsthand and just going, you do an amazing thing. And then on top of it, I go, and you run a great business. And I think you surround yourself with good people.
You said, how do I get, if we have a good employee, I want 10 more of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you invest in man. I want 10 more of you.
Yeah.
Running
100%.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than Profit. As Josh stated so beautifully, choose joy every day. If you would like to learn more about Global Disposal, please check out globaldisposal.com to stay up to date with More Than Profit. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and while you are there, drop us a review so others can find us as well. More Than Profit is a production of Access Ventures. Executive producers are Bryce Butler and Brian McKay. Associate producers is Bryn McKay. Production and operations by Crystal Esquivel. Production assistance provided by Resonate Recording. Our theme song today was No Man's Land by Slapstorm. I'm Bryn McKay, and you've been listening to More Than Profit.